everybody. Welcome to TOWTalk. How you doing? Great. I'm Neil, and we got Denise here with us. How you doing today, Denise?
Hey guys, doing good.
All right. So some of the things that we're looking to discuss today, we're gonna, Denise was interviewing Michael Sussman, who is running for county executive here in Orange County. So we have a fun-filled afternoon for you
We
guys
got a lot to cover.
today. So Denise, tell us a little about your interview with Michael Sussman on Friday.
Yes, so that was great. We covered his campaign. He gave me a lot of gave us a lot of information about housing, about affordability in the county. That was a big conversation. You can actually catch the I don't know if you saw it. It's episode 20. It's already up on the podcast, so you should definitely check it out. See what he had to say regarding messaging. I even we talked about actually doing another one of these and getting, maybe if you have questions, watch the video. First of all, watch the video, and if you have questions, pop them in the comments or just message me. And what I'll do is I'll put together a list of questions. We'll have Mr. Sussman back on, and we'll pose your questions to him. And
So
again,
from
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask you. I was going to say, you said talked about messaging. What's the message from Mr. Sussman to Orange County residents?
So he talked about going into communities, at least on a every other monthly basis, rotating each community and seeing them to meet with the people, find out what their issues are, and ways to make things better. We also pointed to the fact that this media, YouTube streaming, is a great way to get your messages out there because less and less people are watching TV, and more people are doing what we're doing. So it's a great way to communicate. This is the new media. I see, just on my personal belief, that I see legacy media shrinking more and more. And so we need to build up what we do here. This is how we can talk to people. So and I pointed him, he's got on his you can go to his Facebook or to his YouTube. He has 30 videos in 30 days. These are short videos where he addresses a specific issue and talks for maybe like 5 minutes about it. So he's using this technology to get his voice heard. So that's
what is his biggest issue? What do you think his biggest issue is?
I think his biggest issue is affordability. That's really what I feel. He pointed to the fact that he's married. He has 7 kids. He raised 7 kids in this community, and his kids today, they can't afford a home in the way that he could. He also pointed to the fact that seniors who want to downsize, so they have a big home, like him, raised a large family, and now they're empty nesters. They've got this big house. They could sell it and maybe move to something smaller, or maybe a condo, or maybe one of these 55 and older communities. And they are out of reach. They can't afford to actually move to something smaller unless they just move out of this area, and they want to stay in this area because this is where their kids are. So that's a big problem. And then rents. We talked about rents. Rents are astronomical. If you're paying, more than a mortgage for rents, or equal to a mortgage, it's really expensive. So, he pointed
Renter's
to
prison.
Yeah.
I've talked about it many times. Renter's prison.
Yep. He spoke about, I guess Camp LaGuardia is being turned into a park, which is, I think it's about 250 acres, give or take. And he said that would be a great place to put up an affordable housing community, maybe for seniors, that we could utilize. And you yourself pointed, I guess it was last week, we were talking about how the fact that if we're going to be building these warehouses that will hopefully employ more people, those people want to move to the area to be close to their jobs. And that was another point that Mr. Sussman made, was that the income level doesn't match the cost of living here in the county. So if the salaries are lower, you can't afford to buy a house or even pay rent. So you have to move either out of the state, you said yourself, Pennsylvania, or up to Sullivan County, or even further where it's less expensive. And now people are traveling, and it's tough to travel. We have tougher winters here than they do in the city. So, you know, we have issues. We need to make things more affordable in this county. We're still a growing county. We're one of the fastest growing counties in the state, but it's going to drop off. If it's too expensive to come here, they'll go further, or they just won't come at all.
It's there's, when it comes to economics in the municipal world, it's very difficult to manage. And this is what people really don't understand. There's a lot of nuance related to it. Okay, your costs, I don't care what municipality you're dealing with, your costs are going up 3 to 5% annually. Okay, the revenue is capped. Okay, everybody seems to not understand that, is capped at 2%. Okay, there's a gap. 2% and 5%, there's a gap.
There's a
okay
gap.
and people get outraged about going above the 2% cap, as if, let's keep in mind that was an arbitrary number put in by your state legislature. Okay, all right, there's no way around it. The only way to really, in Orange County, the great thing in Orange County that we have is we have shared sales tax revenue. So as we grow sales taxes here in the county, right, through either the Woodbury Commons or cannabis or whatever it may be, right, you're growing those revenues, and that helps alleviate, right, the property tax burden. And I think people really don't understand that the best way to combat, right, the burden being put on property tax owners, right, is through development, right, is through increasing your taxable assessed value for your municipality. Okay, and that requires growth, and that requires the idea of building things that people are going to want. Okay, and that goes to what Sussman said, right? The idea of building affordable housing. Now, we all talk about affordable housing, but what does that mean? Okay, and that's really, I think, where people get into the woods, because most people think of affordable housing as the projects, right? Like something that in the city that overwhelmingly failed. And it overwhelmingly failed because it was set up to fail. Okay? We don't talk about those things, right? Because, right, there are affordable housing models that work, right? And we've done them. We've actually done them here in New York. We actually did them out in Long Island, which we talk about Levittown. Levittown was originally an affordable housing, after the war, community where people could buy and get themselves out of paying rent and buy an affordable house. The stigma behind it was whites only. A lot of people seem to forget that, right? It was, you could only buy one of these houses if you were white. Okay? And then when the civil rights movement occurred, okay, they decided, well, we're going to change that because, we want to limit black ownership. And you know what? You could say what you want. Racism, is embedded in a lot of these programs. Okay? And as much as, we want to talk about how we've sort of passed that, we haven't passed that. Right? Because, there are affordable housing models that could work, right? But now what they've decided is this is a great program because it benefits developers, it benefits the elite class, right, versus the working class. And that's what it is. This is no longer a model of racism, it's a model of classism.
Yes. Yep.
Okay? And I think people seem to have forgotten that, right? Like the idea that the wealthy class is trying to just keep the working class down, right? It's the idea we don't want them to build equity. Look at the homes that they build. They could build entry level housing. I mean, we did it here in the town of Walkill in the 80s, there's a place called Canterbury Knolls that was
Yes.
entry
Yep.
level housing for purchase, right? Right here in the town of Walkill, and you don't see developments like that anymore. They stopped building them altogether,
No.
and so I really there are larger discussions that need to occur, but everybody is so entrenched on their line, right? Because
Yeah.
of fear that it has stifled everything. It really has stifled all types of growth in all different types of sectors. And people all of a sudden are like, well, you're anti this and you're this. And it's like, you may be none of those things. And it's just the idea of you understand basic economics, you understand how government works, and you just want to see government do the right thing.
Yes.
So getting back to Sussman, right? If I knew nothing about Sussman, I knew nothing about government. Why should I vote for, in your opinion, why should I vote for Michael Sussman over Steve Newhouse here in Orange County? What are your thoughts on that? Now that you've heard Michael Sussman, you've lived under Steve Newhouse. What is your opinion here?
So I think, and you just touched on it. You touched on racism. We're seeing a rise in that. He's a civil rights attorney. He has an enormous background in civil rights and in constitutional law. And I think those are skills that he can apply to the county. He's been an advocate for people who have struggled. He mentioned that he fought to save Valley View for being shut down, which created an affordable place for seniors who are, in nursing care, and that's a place for them to go. That's another thing. We need, unfortunately, we need rehabilitation places, and we don't want to lose that either, to help people who are vulnerable. And I believe he's a champion for the vulnerable. I felt he was a really good communicator. I think he has a lot of great ideas for what he wants to do for the county. He also believes in transparency. He said that we have a surplus of funds in the county that could be used to be put towards things that would help people who are more vulnerable. And again, applying for housing for people. And he said that's not being done, and that he doesn't want to do that. That Newhouse doesn't want to do that, and that is going to affect the community. So he's been here for 12 years, and I think it's time for a change. I think it's really time for a change, and to see what I'd like to see what Mr. Sussman can do. And I think he's got a bold initiative, and we need bold ideas. That's just my feeling.
Status quo just doesn't seem to sit
No,
well with any of us anymore these
no, we
days,
can't do
does
the
it?
same thing over and over again. We just can't. This is the time for change, and we need new voices. And I'm excited. I'm excited. It was I'm excited to talk to him again. He covered so much, and he I didn't get a word in. Too many words in.
He's an
But yeah,
attorney. Attorneys don't let you talk all that much.
no, they don't. No, they don't. But I feel that this is the time, especially at a time where we're seeing civil rights eroding and attacks on our rights, attacks on speech. I think he's the right person to be in politics and to be in office somewhere. So that's how I feel.
I think you give some valid points there. You know, and not for nothing. I'm a nuance guy.
Mm-hmm.
And these 10-word answers, these talking points,
Yeah.
are killing this country. They're
Slogans.
just
I call them slogans.
they're killing the country, and they're hurting real people. And I listen. I'll be the first one to say that that some of the diversity, equity, inclusion, the DEI stuff, like, it's all valid, it's all needed, and I know that I'm gonna be like one of those naysayers, but they were coming up with this grant, and I know that the right loves to point to this, but I think this is a cautionary tale on both sides. They were doing this grant for high speed internet, and they were trying to locate areas that. So, I mean, if you're a private company, you're not investing in a small area to do high speed internet. You're not going to make any money. We have to keep in mind, companies, their sole goal is to make profit. That's it. It's not to benefit the public. If they benefit the public, you know what? Then they've actually done something well, right? Like, then they've created a good product that actually helps people. Okay? But they're in it to make money. Okay?
Yeah.
And I've analyzed from a financial standpoint, right? Like, I used to help manage for one of the investment firms that I worked for back in the day, one of these cable operators. And their goal was to build in these small areas, build up enough in these small areas, right, so that they could make a profit and get taken over by a larger company.
Right.
Right? Like, that's the goal.
That was the goal of the .coms. Somebody bought me out.
Right. That's the goal of pretty much a lot of businesses today, is buy me out. Okay. And they suffered significant losses, right? To the point where they didn't even know if they were going to stay in business. And then all of a sudden they got an influx of more money. They were able to build out more areas, and they were able to eventually get taken over. Okay. There's a lot of nuance associated with that. So what the government was looking to do was they were looking, to participate in one of these things, right? They made everybody jump through so many hoops, right? And one of the hoops was how are you going to include diversity, equity, inclusion, right, into your business model, whatever it was, right? And and this was like, you're just trying to get the grant so you could qualify to file another application to actually try to win the grant, right? Like, I mean, this is how this country operates, right? It was you have to file an application so that you could file another application so that you could file another application to get the grant money to be able to do the thing, right? Like, so all 50 states was like, I mean, that whittled it down right from the start, okay? Because this isn't then become a state issue, it becomes a local issue. Because now all of a sudden, as a local municipality, you're like, I have to fill out this paperwork. Well, now you're making these local municipalities who have no resources to begin with to fill out the paperwork. Local governments, state governments don't operate this way. Like, things have, and they've created so much bureaucracy that people weren't going to see high-speed internet for 10 years from when the program started. Not only that, only 3 states actually finished the application process in time to be able to submit another application, right? So it was like out of 50 states, only 3 states finished the application process in a timely manner to be able to move on to the next step, which was to file another application to see if they could qualify for the grant.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Right? And people wonder why Democrats are hated. This is why Democrats are hated, right? Like, I mean, it's the idea that not everything needs to be that thing, right? It's like high-speed internet. We need to go, the tiger countries, right? So you're talking about Indonesia, like those countries out there, and the Asian countries. They have decided that internet access is a human right. Think about that.
Yeah.
Internet access is a human right. Okay? The idea that being able to access the internet, what does that mean? It means accessing education. It means accessing commerce. It means accessing elections, accessing the ability to know what bills are being passed in your country, and being civically
Absolutely.
active. It literally has become everything. Okay? Now it's sort of become the mechanism for disinformation too at the same token.
Well, yeah.
Right? So that's a different concept. But this idea that we talk about healthcare being a human right, water being a human right, like freedom of speech being a human right. Like some of these things, we have to ask ourselves, is this a necessity to live in this country and be a participant in this grand scheme of democracy that we call? You know, I always go back to the best internet that we have in this country. Right? You're gonna laugh. Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Huh?
Did you know that? The
No.
best internet, the fastest internet, the best internet that this country has is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Right? And it's government owned and government run.
That's interesting.
Right? Because sometimes when government does something, it's not bad. Okay? We've become on this idea that and it's because politicians get into office to make things bad because they want to put forth, right, their agenda. So if their agenda is that government's bad and my goal is to fix it by dismantling it, then you're going to make it worse. Okay? And that's sort of the conversation piece, and I think that's sort of where we need to start, having these conversations. But thank you very much for sitting down with Michael Sussman. That was a great interview.
Yeah, yeah. I was,
And
for those of you watching here, that is the first time I've ever interviewed anybody other than having the conversation with you. I've spoken to you and asked you questions all the time, but that's the first time I've ever actually done it. I was a little flustered, and of course, and we're gonna talk about my eye coming up, but my eyes were still dilated, so I was like trying to read like Magoo. So, thanks for watching our show. And if you haven't already done so, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. We're trying to get up to our first 1,000 subscribers, and we can't do it without your help. So do that. Also, leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. And finally, you can follow us on pretty much all the socials. Just do a search for TOWTalk podcast or sometimes Town of Wallkill podcast. Thanks for watching. We look forward to bringing you more content in the future.